Gary, let's talk about Jesus actually did die on the cross. All the evidence is there. You even have non-Christian sources, which you wrote a book, The Historical Jesus. You got all the non-Christian sources in here. All of them say Jesus died. And Tabor in the Jesus dynasty, he says, you know, it's almost incredible that anybody would say that he didn't die. I mean, that's a sure fact. But let's get Jesus dead here. How do we know for sure Jesus died? And then what about these resurrection appearances? And did Paul just have a vision?
Well, that's a tall order. Some of the relevant facts here are medical. And unfortunately, we know crucifixion from more than the first century. Reported crucifixions during the Nazi persecution of Jews. There are several medical doctors who've asked for male volunteers to be crucified, and they've observed what's happened. One with a radiologist who watched what happened during the chest. There are different views on exactly what happens, but the predominant view is still, and Michael Bagent reports this, interestingly enough, that the predominant view is that death by crucifixion is essentially death by asphyxiation. If you hang with your arms out, the weight of your body pulling down, the closer your arms are to your head, the faster it's over. In one experiment in Germany a number of years ago, the men passed out at a maximum of 11 minutes. Now that's too soon for historic crucifixion, but that's because the men were hanging from 2x4s and their feet were not attached to anything. What attaching feet does is actually prolong it, because as long as you can push up and you can free your lungs, the predominant view again, you can breathe. But gravity, pain, because you're pushing up on the nails in the case of many of these. By the way, almost every ancient reference to crucifixion mentions nails, not ropes. That doesn't mean people couldn't have been tied, but almost everyone mentioned nails. So you're going to push up on nails. I think it's kind of built in here. Very painful, anti-gravity. You can't stay up there very long. You slump back down, you begin asphyxiating. You don't have to have a medical degree if you're standing there to make sure the person's dead. All you have to do is, how long has he been in the low position of the cross? Because the low position of the cross is designed to ensure death. Then you have this detail in the Gospel of John that they stabbed Jesus in the side and blood and water came out. The leading medical view is that the spear went through the heart, as indicated by the fact that the water comes from the pericardium, a thin sac that surrounds the heart that holds a watery fluid, and the blood from where it's held in the heart. It's not true, by the way, that dead men do not bleed. Now, some New Testament critics have said, that's a spiritual mention here by John. We don't find anywhere else. I'll just mention there are two references outside the New Testament to people having their chest pierced. Martin Hingel's little book on crucifixion mentions several sorts of coup de grace, a crushed skull, a bow and arrow to finish a guy off. Broken ankles are for that reason, so the person can't push back up. Recently, James D.G. Dunn, in his book Remembering Jesus, said that he takes very seriously the references outside the Gospels to the piercing, just to make sure the job's done. Makes sense. So you've got the asphyxiation, you've got the chest wound. We already mentioned the Strauss critique. This isn't the kind of person, the person who comes out of this is a person who's alive, but that kind of person is not raised from the dead. So these are just a few of the reasons, but today it is virtually unanimous among scholars. And besides, if he didn't die on the cross, you've got to get James on board. How does Paul come on board later from a raised Jesus who's walking around?
Because all through the
healed.
New Testament Gospels, you have the family of Jesus didn't believe in him. I mean, the brothers, James and Jude.
Mark 3, John 7.
They didn't believe in him. And the only thing that seemed to have turned them around is what 1 Corinthians 15 says, is he appeared to James. Well,
James.
that would do it, wouldn't it?
It would. It would. And yet you have Tabor saying that tradition, that vision tradition, doesn't go through Jesus' family, if I understand him correctly. So, yeah, a lot of claims contrary to it. And I keep saying over and over again what the majority of scholars grants today. Almost nobody takes apparent death. But I should say, this isn't established because almost everybody concedes it. It's the other way around. Almost everybody concedes it because we have multiply attested facts that come in from different angles. You only concede, a good scholar concedes what the data says. So the fact that the data says it is far more important than scholars concede it. But when you get both, I think we're onto something pretty heavy historical fact.